Hello everybody and welcome to another amazing video of DIY investing. Over the last couple months, we have had nothing but talk around these ETFs as we've seen Bitcoin going from 40,000 all the way up to 74,000 in just a month after its ETF approval. The Ethereum ETF is set to go live sometime this month, and if history has told us anything, it's that once this ETF starts trading and goes live, Ethereum is set for massive new all-time highs very soon. Today's video, I'm going to be breaking down which altcoins are next in line to see those ETF approvals, which ones I think are most likely and why, and then mapping out what the charts show so that we can be positioned, prepared to capitalize on all of this insane momentum coming very soon. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you find any value in this video, please do me a favor, hit that subscribe button, and if you want to see anything I'm investing in long term, links are in the description to go ahead and sign up on my website. And with that being said, let's jump right into this amazing video today. Alrighty everybody, here we are to start off today's video. We're going to be mapping out what I think is going to be the big catalyst of driving value in this cycle, and that is the ETFs. We already know that once the ETF for Bitcoin got approved, Bitcoin went from 40,000 all the way up to $74,000. It went from prior all-time highs in the mid-cycle range all the way to a new all-time high in just a month and a half. And so when we're talking about Ethereum getting the next ETF approval, that is going to be going live and trading sometime this month. We're looking at kind of a domino effect happening, in my opinion, where we're going to see these ETFs fuel a lot of growth inside of the crypto markets, and it's really going to drive the institutional demand. Whichever cryptos get the ETF approval are guaranteed to see institutional demand, at least to some extent. Obviously, others are going to outperform more than others. Obviously, some are going to outperform more than others, but it's important to understand that any altcoin getting these ETF approvals is guaranteed to see a lot more upside adoption from these institutional investors than any of the other markets out there. So when we're looking at the crypto markets, I wanted to go through, map out the altcoins that I think are most primed and likely to actually get these ETF approvals, map out the charts, explain what we're looking at right now, and then ultimately mapping out where I think that the markets are going to be headed very soon. Because guys, we've seen a correction today in the 24-hour period, but when we're seeing this pullback, all we're doing is consolidating right around the same support. We never even lost our main support back down in here. When we first capitulated and went all the way down to like 58,000, we're still holding this support. So as long as we're still consolidating in here, I don't think anything has changed in the bigger picture. Bitcoin could sit here and just chop around for a couple months before we ever get to the point of going up, and I've mapped that out extensively, which is why when the market is just in its chopping phases, when we're correcting, we've been in this correction for 4 months, as we're getting into these periods where we don't really know exactly what to do, the best thing that we can do is focus on the big picture trend. Because for me, as long as Bitcoin is continuing to hold support, we don't really need to be targeting any lower levels. You know, we held our support during this big capitulation, we reclaimed that level, now we're getting a retest. So during these periods where the market is fearful, I always like to look at the macro view. I like to zoom out, I like to remind you guys of where we're at right now, how far we've came, and where we still have to go. Because right now, as Bitcoin is sitting on support, we actually have a lot of good buying opportunities, even though most people are refusing to do so right now. So I wanted to calm your nerves, simplify things, and look at the big picture so that we know exactly how to be best positioned and prepared to capitalize on any of the momentum ahead. Guys, if at any point you find value in this video, please do me a favor, hit the subscribe button, and links are in the description to go ahead and sign up on my VIP to get any access to anything I'm trading over this cycle. Now, I want to start out here looking at the total market cap of crypto and just going through and talking about which altcoins are most likely to see these ETF approvals. When Bitcoin's ETF got approved, it broke all records for volume as far as every ETF we've ever had, and it wasn't even close. Bitcoin absolutely dwarfed all of the volume in comparison, and you know, some of these ETFs have been around for 30 years. So to see Bitcoin performing so well, you got to assume that a lot of people that are watching the normal TradeFi markets, you got to expect that they're thinking, oh man, you know, the Ethereum ETF is coming up. It's got a much smaller market cap. because Bitcoin pumped so hard, I'm kind of thinking that the Ethereum ETF is going to do the same thing. So I do believe we're going to see a lot of the same results when the Ethereum ETF starts trading this month. But now the question comes, what is the next ETF in line? There's so many altcoins in our market, But how many of these are going to get approvals? Is it only going to be Bitcoin and Ethereum, or is there going to actually be more of a go-ahead? And to be honest, we've heard a lot of talk recently about a Solana ETF. So when we're coming over here, I wanted to read this article for you guys because I really think it points to what is actually happening on the bigger picture. Solana ETF could come next from BlackRock. Could this trigger the new Sol all-time high? A potential ETF filing by BlackRock for Solana could further boost its mainstream adoption and institutional investment. 21 shares in VanEck also filed for Solana ETFs, indicating rising institutional interest in Solana. SEC finally approves spot Ether ETFs, possibly setting a precedent for treating Solana and others as commodities worth noting. So as BlackRock has applied for the Sol ETF this month, we're going over here and we're looking at the top market cap cryptos, and Solana has outperformed the majority of altcoins. It's really rallied there with Ethereum. And when we're talking about the potential of it also getting an ETF approval, I think it's very important that we're also zooming out and taking a look at the price action. Because up to this point, guys, if you guys remember all the way back at the bottom of this bear market, during the FTX collapse, I was posting videos on why I was buying Solana, and we were buying Solana at the very tail end of this dip. I accumulated the majority of my Solana at $12. And that was mostly where I bought all of it, besides for one more buy at I believe it was $16. It was actually higher than my initial buy, but the majority of my buys were coming anywhere from $15 to $12, somewhere in that range. So as it stands, Solana's been one of my best performing altcoins, and the only reason I even bought it was just because, well, layer one, best competitor against Ethereum. If we're going to get institutional involvement, chances are Solana's going to do well. I was blown away by Solana doing a 16x out of my entry in the first year and a half. I did not expect that at all. And I think that with these ETFs, this type of price action is only going to continue to get more, enhanced from here. Seeing how quick we've already rallied to begin this new cycle, Solana did not have a very lengthy accumulation back down in here before we went up 16x. So we're already seeing that this cycle is more parabolic. There's more buy support than ever before. And this is coming from somebody who just bought this cycle low because it looked like the original Ethereum chart. I was buying Solana just because its first cycle looked just like Ethereum's first cycle. When ETH went from $6 all the way up to $1,400 and then back down to $80, it did the same exact pattern that Solana did. So all I was doing was buying Solana just because I liked the market cycle chart. It wasn't because I thought Solana was any sort of magnificent project that was going to gain all this exposure and spotlight. But when it did happen, it puts into perspective why it pays to be early, why we need to get in at the opportune times. And even if you feel like you're missing out now, even though Solana's already rallied up 16x from the lows, understand that with these ETFs, we're going to be looking at a lot of the same exact type of price appreciation, but maybe even quicker, maybe even bigger, maybe even more along the lines of what we saw with that last cycle for Solana, going very parabolic. Because as it stands, we've only made our first impulse and we're still consolidating below those prior all-time highs. We've been consolidating ever since, still working on this descending resistance right in here, but we're still just kind of going sideways along with Bitcoin. If we're talking about an ETF approval, watch what happened with ETF. Watch what happened with the Bitcoin ETF right here. We had this massive move into, well, technically a new all-time high. So if we're seeing Solana at a relatively similar point, wherever this ends up bottoming at, because keep in mind, guys, that if we were to sit here and correct even longer inside of this range, just maybe make one more final flush below this range low support, that's still something that we have to be aware of. And if that were to happen, we could still see a bigger buy opportunity before the big move actually comes in. This would be the most ideal scenario for me because I just want to buy more cheap crypto, but we don't for sure know the way the price action is going to look. Bitcoin is still just inside of its consolidation range, sitting right here at this base support. So we're going to see how Bitcoin ends up holding in here, but that's really going to dictate the short-term direction that the markets are going to take. If Bitcoin sits here and just kind of trends sideways, doesn't really do much before breaking out, altcoins themselves will probably just kind of bleed lower or also start to trend sideways. The better ones will go sideways with Bitcoin. The weaker ones will make lower lows as Bitcoin is kind of trending sideways. And so with these Ethereum ETFs going live this month, we could actually see this start to signal, a bigger shift in the market. Maybe the bottom is closer to being confirmed in here on these shorter time frames, and it's really revolving around what is happening right now with Bitcoin. So assuming that we hold this support support, assuming that the rest of the markets are going to hold support, the ETF goes live for Ethereum this month and we start bottoming, then I do think that we're going to be looking at a lot of these other altcoins getting those approvals pretty quickly, right? You know, with Bitcoin, it took 4 or 5 months before Ethereum got approved. Now with Ethereum getting approved, I think it's going to be a much shorter period of time before we start seeing a number of other altcoins added. And when we're looking at Solana being that big leader up to this point, you know, regardless of how the short-term consolidation takes, once this thing starts breaking out, I do believe we're going into a new all-time high. And we're kind of in that last disbelief phase of this cycle, where if we come over here and look at the market cycle chart, we're going to grab the Wall Street cheat sheet because I do think that we're at a very interesting point in this structure. Now, inside of our prior cycle, we had our top, euphoria, all of that good stuff, and then we started our bear market back down. All of this would have just been right down in here. We already finished the accumulation. And then we get to this disbelief phase where we start to rally and break out. Our disbelief phase is much bigger this cycle than anything we've ever seen, just because we have a lot more buy support. There's a lot more demand this cycle than we've had in prior ones. And that's why we've also seen Bitcoin making a new all-time high quicker than ever before. So when we're looking at these same similarities, I do believe that we're at the same disbelief phase of this cycle, where all we've really done is just broken out of our bear market bottom and make that first run up. So even if we bottom here and start breaking out, or if we made one more final low before doing that, I don't think it changes anything. Both scenarios are pointing towards the same conclusion, where we have a number of fundamental factors driving value and adoption this cycle. And I do think that it's going to be these ETFs that really dictate what happens. If the Ethereum ETF goes out this month and it gets a lot of buy support and we really start to see Ethereum break out, I don't see a potential where we end up falling lower in many of these other altcoins. I find it much likely that they're going to bottom and actually start going up with Ethereum. And their charts are showing this. The psychology of the setups just look like this disbelief phase where we're kind of just sitting here. You know, most people are expecting we're going to just kind of sell back off, start a new bear market. But this is always right before we get that next big move. That's the real big move into price discovery, right? Once we get that big lift off into price discovery, that's where I think a lot of people are going to get caught off guard. And I think that the majority of the hype is going to be caused around these ETFs. So if we're talking Solana already having BlackRock filing for its ETF, I think that this one will be the most likely next in line to kind of battle with Ethereum. But the question now comes is, well, what the heck is going to be the next in line from that? You know, we have Solana. If we come back down in here, you know, Binance Coin, I don't think it's going to get any sort of ETF being a Chinese coin. Solana, I think it's going to be the next in line. You know, if we come down in here, USDC, Lido, Dell, Staked ETH, no. We have the potential with XRP, right? That is definitely a potential that we could see here, but I think that they need to get their full resolution finished with their lawsuit. I'm not really looking at XRP as being a big leader of that ETF until we have the full, you know, compliance with the SEC, until we have all of that completely resolved 100%, no more anything. Once that goes through, I do think that XRP has a very legitimate chance at getting that next ETF approved, because XRP has been around longer than Ethereum has. It's been here for the beginning of our cycles, and it's only added more adoption over that time. When I'm looking at it today, I see a lot of the same potentials where all we've really done is just consolidate and accumulate over, you know, since 2017. And when we're looking at 2017 playing out in a similar way this cycle, having this cycle be much bigger than anything before, you can't really look any further than XRP as far as what is a crypto that has already institutional adoptions, that's already working with governments, that's already working and partnered with banks. XRP has all of those tangibles. The only thing holding it back was the SEC lawsuit. Is this a security? Is it not? Well, they won that lawsuit. At the very least, they're going to just pay a fee, and then they're not going to be considered a security. So they did technically win that lawsuit regardless. So if we're talking the top cryptos in market cap, having regulatory compliance, clarity for the first time, XRP maybe is one of the only cryptos out there with true regulatory clarity because they've already gone through the lawsuit. I do think that XRP is going to be one of those to get the ETF. I don't know which order it's going to be though, because we can come over here and XRP, based off market cap, the fact that it's maintained top 10 even through its underperformance in the last cycle, tells me that there's still plenty of buy support here. I don't think anything changes with that. When we're seeing XRP just coiling tighter and tighter to the apex of this triangle, a big move is expected to be happening very soon. The question is that bullish or bearish? And I'm actually leaning towards that being bullish. So then the next question is, what is going to be the catalyst? And I really think that we could be seeing the XRP ETF coming in here fairly soon because of its stance in the market cap, because of its stance as just being in crypto for as long as it has. It's older than Ethereum. It predates a lot of this stuff. They have regulatory clarity now that they've actually kind of finished through with that lawsuit. So when we're looking at the most likely to get those approvals, we already had the two most likely, Bitcoin and ETH. Solana is, in my opinion, the very next one to get listed. I don't find it likely that any other ones beat out Solana. But then after Solana, it's kind of anybody's best guess what happens. You know, we come down here, we have Toncoin after XRP and market cap. We have Doge, we have Cardano. Tron is definitely not going to get it. AVAX, Shiba Inu. You know, these are all cryptos that, in my opinion, have at least the same chance as each other. It's hard to say which one has the strategic advantage. I would personally give it over XRP. That, to me, is the one that I find it's a little bit more likely could have that, but only if we have true understanding with the lawsuit. That's all out of the water, all done and away with. Once we can move outside of that, I really think that XRP is going to shine, and it's going to get a lot of that institutional adoption. But if we're talking outside of XRP, it kind of is anybody's best guess. You know, we have Toncoin, the Telegram blockchain. That's a really solid project. Maybe it gets adoption that way. But, you know, why would they just list a whole bunch of the same tokens? You know, all of these are going to be layer ones. We already have Ethereum. We already have Solana. Why are they just going to go ahead and just list multiple of the same project? They might, because there's over 2,000 different ETFs currently trading right now, and those all are in different sort of markets as well. So when we're talking about crypto, we could see these guys just open up the floodgates and just release adoption for all of these cryptos, and we might see 20, 30 different altcoins having these ETF approvals by the end of our bull run. We don't know for sure, but I'm just kind of mapping out what I think is most likely. And when we get outside of XRP and Solana, I think that Dogecoin is kind of that next in line. As much as people might think that that's stupid, I really do think that Dogecoin will get an ETF this cycle. And it'll be really silly considering it's just Dogecoin. It's a meme coin. Why would that ever have an ETF? But I really think it's going to catch people by surprise when Dogecoin does actually get that approval. When we see Dogecoin get an ETF approval, imagine what that would do for meme coins as a whole. Dog coins, cat coins, you know, any sort of meme on any chain. And that's, you know, going to be universal across the board, even with Solana. If we see an ETF approval for Solana, you got to expect that all of those on-chain altcoins built on Solana are going to do so phenomenally well. And the great thing about this is we have institutions that are coming here approving these ETFs, and they're buying the native chain assets, but they're not buying them on-chain. They're paper trading them through TradeFi. So we're actually going to see that as everybody flocks to buy Ethereum inside of this ETF announcement, and, you know, all the volumes are growing crazy, it's actually not happening on chain, so it's not clogging up the blockchain itself, which is really bullish. So when we're talking about ETFs for the potential of Solana, I think that their altcoins that are built on Solana are going to do amazing. Any meme coins on Solana, you should definitely have some exposure, because we're talking a massive move coming into price discovery during this next breakout. So if we're talking Dogecoin getting an ETF, even though there isn't an ecosystem built on Doge, Dogecoin itself is the staple meme. Just because of an ETF approval of Doge, you're going to see so many different dog coin memes just blow up as a whole. And I think that this is something we have to pay attention to. Your favorite token doesn't need an ETF approval, but if you're positioned in the right narratives to capitalize on those approvals, that's all that really matters. And with Dogecoin, all we've really done is broke out of our bear market bottom, and we're just consolidating on that as support. You know, we can still sit here and chop for a little while, but chances are this is going to bottom, and we're going to be starting that next leg up, because all we've done up to this point was finish wave 1, finish wave 3, and finish wave 5 up. So we finished our first subwave impulse, and all we're doing right now is the ABC correction onto trending support. So we could go technically a little bit lower before this is done, but it doesn't change anything, guys. We spent 600 days going sideways in this bear market bottom. ETF or not, this thing is bullish, you know, 630 days before we broke out. Now that we're sitting on this as support and there's talks of these ETFs, I think that these are going to be catalysts for sending these things up higher. I don't know when Dogecoin would get it, But to be honest, I find it more likely that XRP and Solana would probably get an ETF approval before Dogecoin. But XRP might even be after Dogecoin just because it doesn't have full, clarity around the lawsuit. That's still waiting to get finalized completely, even though it's basically already agreed upon and everybody already knows what's going to happen. That's the only thing holding back XRP. But, when we're talking about Dogecoin, there's no pre-sales, there was no nothing, there was no this or that. It was just completely organic, community adopted. And those are the type of things that I think are going to be a lot more attractive in the eyes of the ETF approvals. When we're looking past Dogecoin, everything else is pretty much the same crypto. You're talking more layer ones, another meme coin. The only crypto that you're getting any sort of a difference with is Chainlink. And I do think that Chainlink will get some type of ETF approval. Chainlink's always been one of my favorite cryptos in each and every cycle. And the thing I love about Chainlink today is it's got one of the better looking setups when we're comparing it. We saw 5 waves off of the low, 5 waves up, big 5-wave impulse. And then all we did was an ABC correction right back down onto trending support. We've been consolidating right here on this horizontal range for a number of weeks now, and I do think that we're getting close to that point of breaking out. But here's the thing, guys, this is just the disbelief phase. When we pull up the Wall Street cheat sheet, I do think that this is pretty much where we're at, which I'll have to zoom out so you guys can actually see it all. But in this disbelief phase where we first start the breakout, we start the first higher highs and higher lows, that's where I believe that we are for Chainlink. So in all of these setups, whether you're looking at Solana, it's just at a higher point in this disbelief phase, whether you're looking at Chainlink here, or whether you're looking at Dogecoin, every single one of these are all in their disbelief phase. They've just went through their bear market bottom and they started that first impulse back up. So whether we chop here for another month or 2 months or 3 months, maybe we go back down just a little bit lower, none of that is changing anything. We are at that final moment of our market cycle before the real upside sets in. And when we're talking about the ETF of Ethereum trading this month, we have a significant fundamental driver of value this cycle that we haven't had. And when we're looking at which cryptos are most likely to get those, it's hard to say. It's all just opinion based. At the end of the day, I could be wrong about every single one of these. But when I look in the market, for sure Solana. I don't find it any sort of solution in which Solana does not get an ETF approval. I find it very likely that that's the next in line. When we get past Solana, it truly becomes anybody's best guess. Is it XRP? I don't know. They've kind of had, their run-ins with the SEC. Would they fast track them and allow that to go through? I mean, SEC has already lost against XRP in this lawsuit, but, I wouldn't even say it's technically a big loss. XRP wins because they're not a security. That's the only thing that really mattered, but they have to pay like a $2 billion fine or something like that. So realistically, there's still a little bit of gray area there, and I wouldn't be surprised if that went back to haunt XRP just in the shorter time, right? If we're talking 20, 30 altcoins getting approved for ETFs sometime in the cycle, I think XRP is for sure going to be one of those listed, but maybe not one of the first immediate ones right off the bat, even though it is such a high market cap crypto. It's just because of all that SEC lawsuit, I don't know how to factor it. But when we're coming down past XRP, truly any of these, they're all about the same. Toncoin, Cardano, Tron, Avalanche, Polkadot, every single one of those they're all their own layer ones. They're exactly the same from each other. So are they just going to go through and just start approving each and every layer one crypto out there? Maybe, I don't know. The only one that's really different out of any of these is Dogecoin. It's the only one that's completely organic. There was no pre-sales, there was no venture capitalists, there was no nothing. It was just completely organic from the start. To me, that's a perfect value proposition for why we would see this getting an ETF approval. Now, if Dogecoin gets an ETF approval, I think that it just sets the precedent that anything can get an ETF approval, and that's why I say they might just start adding a whole bunch of tokens after that point. But we really don't know. The most important cryptos that I think are next in getting the ETF are Solana and Chainlink. And then outside of those two, it's really hard to say. Uniswap will probably get one of those, being that it's, the leading DEX on here. But Shiba Inu, if Dogecoin gets approved, chances are Shiba Inu might get an ETF approval. But all of these are the exact same thing. They're all just layer ones. So outside of layer ones, you've got Chainlink, and you've got meme coins, and then you've got like Uniswap or Bitcoin Cash. All of those are going to be kind of, either a store of value, a scarce asset, Their Chainlink in and of itself is more middleware, so it's a completely different thing from all of these, but they've also even added their own layer 1 network. So I think that the value proposition is just bigger. At the end of the day, we really don't know which of these is going to get the approvals, but when we're looking at each and every one of these setups, they're all extremely bullish. All of these are getting ready to either break out of major downtrending resistance or have already done so and are actually flipping horizontal resistance as well. Chainlink already broke out, made its first impulse. Dogecoin's already broke out, made its first impulse. XRP has not done that yet. But when we're talking about how close XRP is to the apex of this triangle, one breakout and we're literally there. So I think that XRP is in the same situation that each and every one of these are. The difference is some of them are just sitting at higher points in their cycles. Because Solana's had so much more hype, more buy support, now that it's going to get that also, now that it's next in line to also get that ETF approval, you can't really go wrong by looking at either ecosystem plays in all of these or just simply being aware that the ETF approvals are going to happen in a number of these assets. And so getting some exposure is probably a smart move. You know, a lot of these are going to be a little bit more overvalued here, and they have a lot more in market cap, so the upside potential is going to be smaller. However, if you're worried about that, look in the ecosystem. Solana is for sure that next in line to get that approval. So I think Solana meme coins, any Solana low caps, any infrastructure built on Solana, the DEXs, the launch pads, you know, DeFi protocols, anything that it is, those are all going to be great investments, and that's going to be the staple across all of these. You have an entire ecosystem in XRP, you've got an ecosystem in all of these other layer 1 networks. Whether they get approved or not, we don't really know, but all of these are going to be benefiting from this institutional demand, and the question is, which are the next in line to be getting those? I find it most likely that the ones we talked about today are going to be the ones to get those approvals, and we're just going to have to watch and see what plays out. But guys, this is the video I had for you. I wanted to map things out, explain what the charts are sharing with us, talk about the ETFs, why I think that these are going to be such big drivers of value this cycle. If you did find value in this video, please do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. If you want to see anything on buying, selling, trading over this cycle, links are in the description to go ahead and sign up on my website. All of the ecosystems that are going to be blowing up, I'm going to be posting all of those signals in the group. So, you know, as all of these native chain assets are going to be taking off, the ecosystems are where the most value is on chain. And that's where the majority of my investments are placed this cycle. So if you guys want to see anything I'm buying, anything I'm looking at right now, preparing for these ETF approvals, links are in the description to go ahead and sign up on my website. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll catch you guys in the next one. As always, peace out.